Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. It's Gent-Wevelgem, one of the big classics of this year's 2021. This is an exciting race. It's nervous. It's crazy. The roads are narrow. The wind is blowing. You'll see huge 10-foot flags that are just stuck in the wind straight like this, so you know the wind is blowing hard. Watching the race, you see echelon after echelon in the group. It is crazy when you're in the echelons, always fighting for position. You can never look back. It's too dangerous. You might cross wheels with the rider in front of you. You always have to rotate through, because if you try to sit on the back, next thing you know, you get extended where the echelon's coming like this and it lines up. You want to be in that rotation. If you get back here out of the rotation, now the wind's hitting you from the right side of the road or the left side of the road, depending on which side it's coming from. You're no longer getting a draft and you're out the back. Today's Gent-Wevelgem, 240 plus kilometers long. That's 150 miles. This is a hard day in the saddle when the wind is blowing like it is. Right away, small group of 4 gets off. It's not going to last, folks. When you got this kind of wind blowing, just the wind alone is going to cause massive speed in the back and big splits with the favorites up front, and now they're going to run the pace. 180 kilometers to go is when the field just blows up. I start watching it about 90K to go. So when the field's blowing up back then, it's not even on TV yet, because if they did the whole TV, we'd be watching 6 hours worth, and they never give us that much coverage here in the US. So I'm getting on with 90K to go, and I'll give you my take of what I see from 90K to go. First off, in the front group, Wout van Aert's there with his teammate Deceuninck. Now, that is not great numbers when you're talking 20, 25 guys in that front group, but we're talking Wout van Aert with one very strong domestique. Here's the beautiful thing about Jumbo-Visma. They never did too much. You always see them at the front and doing their job coming up and getting out of the way. They're never taking a long pull. Wout van Aert's never showing off on any of the early climbs about how good his legs are, how strong he is. Let me burn up energy wherever I can. He's never doing that. Always just up and off. Never enough that anyone will complain that he's not working and stop the positive effect that front group was having. And most of that positive effect is coming from bike exchange, because Michael Matthews is there. He hasn't won a big classic like this ever, but he's been up there at the finish. You know he's got a chance, and they're hoping it could be today. They have 4 riders from bike exchange. In my opinion, these 4 riders are what's driving this front group of 20, along with the 2 Jumbo-Visma riders coming through, rotating up and off, not doing too much extra, but just up and off, and a few other guys jumping in here and there. With Sam Bennett sitting in there, he's not actually rotating through yet, but he's not causing any problems either. The big take that I saw from today's stage was Deceuninck Quick-Step. Basically, they were a disaster. They had at least 4 guys in the back group. That number 2 group, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 different groups back there, but the first number 2 group had at least 4 Deceuninck Quick-Step riders that I saw, and one's Davide Ballerini. We've already seen Ballerini go distance on these classics at the beginning of this 2021 season, and he's been winning races. He's on good form. We've seen him already get over climbs like this in the classics. He's the guy, in my opinion, that Deceuninck Quick-Step needed to get into that front group. And if nothing else, Deceuninck Quick-Step needed somebody with Sam Bennett. I don't believe I've seen Sam Bennett win any races on his own yet. Anytime he's won, he's always had teammates around him. He's a pure sprinter. He's not a classic guy. Now, everybody at these races are all sprinters of some sort, right? Because we're watching Catalonia this morning on the Butterfly Effect, and that's where all the little guys are. So everybody up in the classics here are sprinters, but Sam Bennett is that pure sprinter that cannot really climb. So this is going to push him to the limit. Now, when I watched Deceuninck Quick-Step with 90K to go, there's 4 of them in there, and it's the Alpecin Phoenix team really doing the work on the front. If Deceuninck Quick-Step had jumped on with Alpecin Phoenix right there, they could have closed that minute. Sometimes there's only a 40-second gap. Just closed it right away. They would have had 5 guys in the front group. It would have been reset, try to get better numbers, or reset with a Sam Bennett and Davide Ballerini as your sprinters for the finish. 3 guys to look after them, get them near the finish, and try to win in a sprint with those guys. Instead, with 90K to go, they start sending guys up the road. They can't bridge the gap. They come back. They stop working. Then it's AG2R that's on the front. They have 2 guys working on the front because they got Greg Van Avermaet there. Greg doesn't have great form. He hasn't won this year yet, but he's always near the front group and mixing it up, so you believe that he's got a chance at winning today's stage. He's got his teammates on the front. Now, Deceuninck Quick-Step at that point in time still had guys in that group. They could have put him back on the front. You would have had 4 or 6 guys rotating through. At times, that group had gotten within 40 seconds of the leaders on top of that. So Deceuninck Quick-Step wouldn't work with Alpecin Phoenix. They tried to go across on their own. They couldn't make that happen. They got caught. They get a chance to work with AG2R. They won't work with them. Then it's FDJ working for Arnold Demar. They have Stefan Kuhn that's in the front, but he's not very fast when you look at that group. So Arnold Demar is going to try to get across, so he puts his Frances de Jour teammates on the front. The problem that's happening in this number 2 group, Deceuninck Quick-Step's working solo, AG2R's working solo, Frances de Jour's working solo, Deceuninck Quick-Step's trying to jump across on top of that. No chemistry in the number 2 group. Otherwise, if Deceuninck Quick-Step had stepped up to the plate and just started working with the other teams immediately, or at least after their attack didn't work, that group would have brought back. They would have had 5 in the front group, and that would have set them up nicely. Remember, they just got done dominating a few days ago with Casper Asgreen winning because of numbers and power in the legs. Here, they're trying to force the power again, but they just don't have that same kind of fitness. When we come down to the finish, we'll go over the Camelberg, and that is where things start to get tricky, right? You see Sam Bennett. He suffers over the Camelberg, but he makes it over in the front group. He's in a great selection. Then 2K after that, 33 kilometers before the line, we see Sam Bennett get sick. Guys, there was many times on TV where Sam Bennett looked like he was swinging back there, and the Deceuninck Quick-Step director in the car, if he's got it on cam, if he's got the TV and he's watching it, he should see how bad he looks. The car is always right behind the brakes, so visually he should be able to see Sam Bennett back there swinging at times. But when Sam Bennett actually gets sick and throws up on his right side and then on his left side with 33 kilometers to go, how much more warning light do you need to tell your Deceuninck Quick-Step guys to get on the back and start chasing no matter who's working with you? They still don't. Sam Bennett's going deeper than he's ever had to go in his entire life because he doesn't want to let the Wolfpack down on today's race. He knows they put the full faith in him to go to the line and win this race. He's not going to be able to do it. Determination only takes you so far. I think he was 50K short of today's race. He definitely comes up at about 16, 14K to go when he gets popped. He's got nothing else left. It's game over. And then we see Deceuninck Quick-Step in the number 2 group back there. All of a sudden, I believe it's Yves Lampart's back there just throwing in a dig, going as hard as he can, and now try to close a minute gap. It's too late, Deceuninck Quick-Step. You missed the boat. There was tons of signs, many times that you should have seen that you could have brought this race back together, but you chose not to. Now up front, we come into the sprint. Giacomo Nizzolo, he's sitting third wheel, but there's no sprinters in front of him, so you see him slide out with 1.5 K to go, and he's going out because he wants to get behind somebody with speed. Problem is, nobody else wants to let him back in, so now he has to go to the very back, and he's sitting 7th wheel for the sprint. With 250 meters to go, it's Wout van Aert that starts the acceleration. He dives straight off of Michael Matthews' wheel before Matthews even starts his sprint. So when Matthews starts his sprint, they're side by side. Wout van Aert's form is clearly on fire this year. He's been winning everywhere already. Pulls past Michael Matthews. You see Giacomo Nizzolo back there that does a great little dive and weave to come up and get a second, with Matteo Trentin third on the stage. It was a fabulous day. When you watch this at home, you got to appreciate how much stress, how much fighting there was. Even in a group of 20, these roads are so narrow that guys are off in the dirt, riding through puddles of water, taking the turns on the inside off the road, climbing up the cobblestones. It is absolutely chaos all day long, even when you're in the front group of the classics. We got more classics coming, guys, here for the Butterfly Effect. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon.